Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at how best to bait out special attacks from various different opponents. So we're going to start off with some of the easier ones like Ultron and Kamal Khan, and then we're going to move to Hyperion, Void, Mordo, Dormammu and alike. So first things first, in order to bait out the special attack, you want to stay away from block button. You want to leave yourself open for as much as possible, and that is kind of key cardinal rule when it comes to baiting out specials from any opponent. That is kind of requirement numero uno. There are a few more techniques that will help you, but first of all, let's take a look at champion and animation style. That is probably the easiest to bait out specials in the game, and that is Ultron. The same applies to Cyclopses, Iron Mans, basically any kind of single projectile special attacks. And in order to bait those out, you just want to leave yourself open, dash to the end of the map, and chances are they will immediately shoot it. Like we can see here, every time we dash back, he does not hesitate. Only thing that we need to make sure is that we do not hold block active. And yeah, against all beam attacks and long distance attacks, in order to bait those out, you basically just need to get to the corner of map, leave yourself open, and they will pretty much shoot it immediately. Like we can see here multiple times, we have absolutely zero issue getting that special attack out of the Ultron. A quick side note I could add: when opponent is past 1 bar of power, against these guys you typically want to finish with a 4-hit combo, just because that gives you more time to position yourself where you want to be and actually do the evade movement itself. And that is a key kind of aspect against many specials that do catch you from time to time. If you are struggling with any specific champion that does kind of like catch you on your backdraft, when you're dashing back, then it's probably the easiest and best fix to make sure that doesn't happen is whenever they are past bar of power, just make sure you finish on a 4 combo. You're gonna have much easier time to actually evading that special attack. So the Ultron fight is nearly over. Then we're going to take a look at Kamal Khan, which is also fairly regular AI type with a simple short range kind of like special attacks. There are no projectiles, you basically just have to outrange those. But yeah, so far so good. A simple base idea of do not hold your block. You're gonna have much easier time betting on specials against every single opponent. Now let's gonna take a look at very simplistic AI that is Kamal Khan. And there is absolutely nothing special to baiting her special attacks as well. Similarly as before, main idea is to leave yourself open and just kind of dash back out of the way at the last possible moment if she does not throw her special attack, if she chooses to launch at you. And another tip and trick that we're going to be exploring throughout this video is if opponent is not throwing their special attack when you want it to, it's often a good idea to tap your opponent's AI in a block a couple of times, because opponents seem to throw their special attacks much more frequently if you do land a hit or two on their block. Now that is a technique I use extremely frequently against many difficult opponents. But now back to this fight. As we saw there, there is nothing special. We can do any combos that we like. Her special attack animation is fairly slow. There are no projectiles, we just need to outrange it. And that's pretty much it, what's happening in this video. We just leave ourselves open and dash away from Kamal Khan at last possible moment if she is not throwing special attack, if she chooses to launch at us. And we repeat that movement a couple of times until such time as she throws her special attack, or if she's being grudging with her special attack, then we hit her block a couple of times. Now let's move on to some more interesting fights. In addition to having that massive power gain and you being forced to bait out many more special attacks than in majority of the fights, Hyperion is fairly notoriously famous for occasionally holding on to his power and not throwing his special attacks. Now, there are a few simple techniques in order to help you find that. Number one, and for most important, is you want to start baiting special attack as early as possible in power bar. You do not want to push him high up in the power bars. Definitely do not want to push him past 2 bars of power for most part. And as soon as he hits that 1 bar of power, you already want to be proactive and bait out the special attack. One thing you definitely want to avoid when fighting Hyperion is to parry him if you're not going to be continuing that with a combo, just because while he is parried, his passive power gain is active and you're basically wasting time. However, the second important technique, and here we had a small slip up, we got a jab in the face, but second most important technique quite often against these tricky AIs is to cut your combos short. I do not know exactly why, but opponent's AI seems to be much more likely to throw a special attack if you do 4 or 3 hit combos instead of finishing it with 5 hits and a medium attack. In fights like Hyperion, this technique blends in seemingly perfect with what I mentioned before, that you want to start baiting out the special attacks as early as possible. Therefore, as you're gonna notice, we're largely hitting Hyperion only 2, 3, 4 times, no more, never 5 times pretty much, unless he's completely below bar power and we couldn't have a special to bait. But yes, cutting your combo short will help you against many different opponents to bait their special attacks much easier. In addition to what I mentioned before, that against many opponents where they catch you with their fast-paced specials and you kind of want to cut down to 4-hit combos as is, that is kind of working together perfectly with pretty much all the things I have mentioned so far. So for many different fights when I have tricky opponents whose specials aren't always easiest to bait or where I need to manage opponent's power extremely well, I do tend to only rely on 4 and 3 hit combos. Also, at times when opponent still isn't throwing their special attack, it is always a good idea to alternate in between deep and shallow dexterity evades, because that gives a different kind of positioning on the screen and different timing for AI and kind of opens them more up to shooting their special attacks depending what this current AI prefers. So quite often when you're gonna see me doing like a couple dashbacks trying to bait out the special attack, I pretty much always try to do first either deep evade and then second shallow evade and vice versa. Now we're gonna have another fight against that Hyperion, but using Red Hulk this time, and this time we're gonna be incorporating our special attacks in the mix, because AI is also often more likely to be throwing their special attacks if they are freshly knocked on the ground by a heavy attack or special 1 attack. Well, any special attack really, but you guys get the point. So anyways, just like before, we are not finishing off with 5-hit combos. Like here we only did like 1 or 2 hits before launching our special attack, and that is kind of baseline goal. Now we are alternating in between deep and shallow evades, hitting opponent's block. So in this fight we're pretty much mixing together everything I have mentioned in this video so far. You do want to leave yourself open for as long as possible. You do want to cut down your combo size from 5 hits to 4 or 3 hits in many cases. You do want to tap opponents on block in order A, to maintain your kind of field positioning, and B, that AI often responds to hits in a block with their special attack. You do want to knock them down on the floor, as we can see in this fight, after being knocked down by special or heavy attack. Quite frequently Hyperion does launch his special attack. And lastly, you do want to alternate in between shallow and deep dexterity evades. And those are pretty much the main things we will be using throughout this video. So in case of this Hyperion, you can see me pushing him back. Even though he was closing in on 2 bars of power, I still chose to tap his block, pushing him closer to 2 bars of power, but also at the same point putting him in corner, and he immediately shot the heavy attack afterwards. Also, it's worth mentioning that it is seemingly much easier to bait out opponents' special attacks if you are able to get them in corner. Quite often opponents will be spamming their special attacks like nobody's business if they are in their corner, and if they have cornered you, they will hold on to their special attacks tighter than I hold my beer. Therefore, that is not a very optimal outcome, and as often, positioning is key. You want to always take the fights to opposition corner. You do not want to get cornered yourself. Here at the end of the fight, we're gonna have a small funny mishap, and we're gonna let opponent touch our block, and due to the global node, that's gonna result in a very fun and interactive amount of damage. That was 20k, 25k damage for is essentially a parry. But hey, but that's not the main point. The main point is Hyperion never got to his level 3, and we finished off the fight relatively easily. So, Dormammu also can be notoriously famous for holding on to his special attacks. In addition to that, we essentially can't trigger our dexterity or we'll start to degen. That makes baiting out special attack here quite a bit harder. However, we have come to bargain with him. So, the most important things dealing with Dormammu. Number one, you do not want to trigger your dexterity, because that will get you degening. So, and at the same time, you have to bait out your special attacks, which can make it a difficult task. However, there are few tips and tricks we can use in order to do that. Number one, we do want to start baiting out the special attacks as early in power bar as possible. Number two, as mentioned before, you do not want to finish off with full combos, cut your combos short. Number three, you do want to knock him down on his bottom as often as possible. And lastly, with Dormammu, you do want your parry game to be on point if he still is stingy with his special attacks. As we can see here, so far so good. We are managing to keep the fight to his side of the screen, even though he's not exactly cornered. We're still doing a good job at shooting a few in block. Unfortunately, that did not work this time. However, he does choose to land his special attack after our parry stun. And here, once again, we are just kind of keeping to our basics, baiting out the special attacks as early in power bar as possible, knocking him down frequently. Now with that, nearly made a mistake because of limber. However, we still got lucky enough and he did not kind of sneak in a hit. And throughout this video, you're going to notice that we're essentially doing all the things we mentioned before in the video. We are finishing our combos early, for most part, if he is above 1 bar of power. We are knocking him down frequently. We are leaving ourselves open, keeping him to his side of the screen as much as possible, and that resulted in an easy victory against Dormammu without triggering dexterity once, without having degeneration placed on us. And now we are going to take a look at Yellowjacket, just because I have heard that many people still struggle with him. And Yellowjacket in its essence is a really simple opponent to deal with, and the base idea here once again is going to be cut our combos short, finish with 4 light attacks as long as he's past bar of power, dash away, and in vast majority of the cases he's going to pretty much immediately shoot his special 1 attack. If that does not work, ideally we just want to get to tap to his block a few times, and then usually he's super friendly. Now, only reason why people are struggling against Yellowjacket is because to fully dex his level 1 requires extremely precise timing. It is possible, but it is not advisable, and easiest way to deal with that is to simply outrange it. However, people often get clipped and caught because the range of Yellowjacket's stings is fairly large, and in order to make sure you are able to dash back far enough, once again you do want to finish with 4-hit combo. That gives you more time. You can get 2 dashbacks in and you're gonna have super easy time dealing with Yellowjackets. As soon as this fight's over, we're gonna be taking a look at Mordo fight, and in Mordo fight there's only pretty much one golden rule: do not push him past 2 bars of power unless he would get there anyways with his power gain. And that is pretty much the only time you want to push Mordo past 2 bars of power, is when you land a heavy attack in order to interrupt his power gain, if he would get past 2 bars anyways. Aside from that, the golden rule is keep him basically at 1 bar of power and bait out level 1s. But quickly, let's go over all the techniques that we discussed in this video. So number 1, you want to leave yourself open for as long as possible. Stay away from that block button. Number 2, you do want to often shortcut your combos to 3 and 4 hits. And that will A, give you more time to get away from opponent's special attacks and evade them better. And B, AI typically throws special attacks more easily if you finish combo with 3 or 4 hits. C, you do want to try and knock opponents down as often as possible in some trickier matchups, because AI often responds extremely well with a special attack after a knockdown. 4, you want to keep all of the fights at the corner of your opponent, not your corner, because then they are much friendlier shooting their special attacks. And 5, you want to hit opponent's block if they are being stingy with their special attack. And that also goes well with the point of number 6. You want to start baiting the special attack as early as possible. You do not want to push opponents close to 3 bars of power. Basically, for most part, as soon as they get to 1 bar of power, you want to start baiting special attack in case AI kind of gets tricky, gets stingy. He's not going to throw his special attack immediately. That's going to give you much more room to work with, and you're not going to find yourself cornered in dire situation. That's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. See ya.